Hi guys, welcome back to Adventures with Rhonda, and I'm so glad you joined me for part 3 of the marriage series. We talked about dating for marriage in part 1 and part 2. Now part 3 is married. Now what? What do we do now that we have the ring? What do we do now that we have the name change? So there's a lot between that moment of pre-dating, dating, and then now marriage. Marriage is something that's a difficult task that we have to learn how to navigate. Yes, you're in love with that person, but then there's all of these changes that are taking place in your mind, in your body, in your heart, because now that you two have become officially one, you are working together for the same goals, you're working together for the same outcome, and that your merger, your marriage be strong, and that love and joy follow you. And so how do you keep that joy? How do you keep that love? And we hear these stories about people who get married, and then you hear later down that they say, you know what? I don't love them anymore. I know that's hard to hear when we hear stories like that. I don't love them anymore. So what's changed? The thing about it is the people that we are should be the same people that we are when we get married and while we're married. People change their minds, they change their emotions, they change all of these things. It's like adolescence on steroids now because you have a job, you have more responsibilities, and then you have all of these thoughts coming to your mind, all of these bills, everything, all the stresses of life come into play. And sometimes when people go through things, it changes them. And unfortunately, sometimes people can change for the worst, and sometimes people can change for the best. And so how do we handle when we're married, all of life changes? Well, the answer to that is simply knowing that the person you married is a helpmate, somebody who is helping you along this journey, that you're not fighting by yourself, that when you have hard days, they're there to help you. When they're having some terrible days, you're there to encourage them. That change that's going to happen, we all evolve. We're supposed to be growing. We're supposed to be getting better. We're supposed to be changing, but for the better. If you're still trapped in your cocoon and you haven't grown your wings, or you still don't look like the butterfly you were meant to be, we can't blame the other person for what we are or what we haven't become. Because what desires we have in us were still desires before we said I do. The desires that we have are supposed to be merged with the other person, because together you're better, right? You're not going to be worse when you're together. And so why would God give you someone who is going to tear you away from your destiny? Why would he give you someone who will destroy the path you're meant to be on? So that whole marriage tie is something exceptional, because marriage is more than a piece of paper, more than just a ring on your finger. The problem is people think, oh, I got a ring. But if you don't have the love, the loyalty, the respect, the honor, the dedication, you don't have a ring. You have a souvenir of where you two met. You met at a place of loneliness, a place of despair, and you fell victim to wanting to be with somebody instead of loving who you are until you could find the right person. Yeah, it's hard to hear it, and then it's hard to be in that situation, and you feel like you should have never said I do. So the struggle in marriage, people you always hear all the time saying communication is the problem. Well, how is it that you can talk 4 and 5 hours or more on the phone when you're dating, but when it comes to marriage, you can't spend 5 minutes talking about what your goal is for the future? You can't spend my 5 minutes not arguing about what you're going to have for dinner. You can't spend 5 minutes to decide on how are we going to build a better us. That question is a frightful question, because guess what? We fall victim to it because we are getting so caught up in the mundane things of life. Go to work, eat, go to school, go to work, all of these things, blah, 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 blah. All of these things that we're going through, when we forget that we're not in this by ourselves. Yeah, the battles you're fighting are a little different now because you got backup. So if you don't see your spouse as backup, then there's a problem. That person is there to make you better, not to belittle you, not to batter you. We are seeing so much of divorce and heartache and pain in this world because people are choosing not to work together. People are choosing to live like they're single. People are still trying to fight battles alone. When you are trying to work something out and figure something out by yourself, it consumes you. Versus realizing, talk to your spouse. Maybe they have a better idea on how to do things. Let them help co-bear your burden. Because we can't do it by ourselves. And our spouse is supposed to be there to help us along this life's journey. Are you afraid to trust your spouse with your emotions? Are you afraid that they may use it against you? Are you afraid you're going to be verbally hurt by them? Are you afraid to be vulnerable in front of your spouse? Well, look at your marriage. Marriage is about coming together, your strengths, your weaknesses. They're better in the areas you're weak in. They're better in the areas you are daily struggling in. But you know, when they are trying to do their best and they feel like they can't fix it, pray together. Pray together. Lord, help my spouse. They feel so bad right now. And I just wish I could be in their heart and just touch them and hold them in a place where they know without a shadow of doubt everything's going to be okay. These places are hard to be in, even more painful for the other person to watch someone they love not be willing to share that pain with them. Don't close the door. Don't close the door on your relationship because you're hurting. The same way you talk to them for hours on the phone, sit down. Talk to them. Tell them what's happening in your heart. Yes, they are not God. They're not the all-knowing, just ever-present help all the time, because that place belongs to God. But they are present to help you. They're tangible arms to hold you. They're tangible ears to listen to you. Give them the opportunity to help you feel more loved. Because the loving you didn't stop when they put the ring on it. Loving you despite all didn't stop when they signed the paper, the marriage license. For better or worse is not just a catchphrase. For better or for worse is not something to laugh at or scoff at. It's something very deep, and you have to take that seriously when you are marrying someone. Because every day is not going to be amazing. Every day is not going to be the perfect day and the most happiest day of your life. But you can have joy knowing that no matter what life throws at you, no matter what happens today in this moment in time, that you're going to be okay. That no matter what today may have brought to you, you are already covered because you are already beloved by the Father, but you are also beloved by your spouse. Let them be a safe haven for you. They already get nagged by the world. Don't come home nagging at them. This happened. Your child didn't listen today. Oh, let me tell you what they said to me at work. Oh my God. That's a lot. You know, and we want to dump our stuff on people, but we need to realize they need help too. They need their moment of peace. They need to be able to come to you. They need to be able to let you listen to them. So that reciprocity is something that is amazing when you have it done the right way. Where you can talk to your spouse about anything. And they're listening, providing sound, good, godly counsel. And then when they're having a moment, you can talk to them. When they're having a bad day, they just know if they can get to the phone and call you and just hear your voice will change their day. All of these things may sound mythical to people who don't have those respect qualifications. But to somebody who knows what they want out of a marriage and want to be for that person, they're like, oh, you're saying all the things that I want this person to do, all these things I want this person to have. That's why it's so important to know who you're marrying to. That's why I made part 1 and part 2, so you can understand how serious it is to say I do. And making sure it's the right one so you don't regret it. So you don't feel hurt because you didn't make the right decision. And our spouses need us. They need us to pray for them. They need us to go to war for them when they are struggling, and they just need somebody there to hold on to them, somebody just to let them know that they are loved, to hug them, to say, I am here for you. That's something to comfort their spirit, something that gives them peace, knowing that no matter what the world tries to say, no matter what people try to just get on their nerves and do, guess what? You got somebody, you got backup, okay? And all of these words are to just remind people what it is to be married. You're going to have to talk to your husband or your wife and talk about the hard stuff. Talk about stuff that you really don't want to talk about. You know, you can tell them things that you want to discuss. Let them be your outlet to talk to. Even if you got to set up, if your day is so busy, that's why marriage is set up the way it is, because you find the time for that person. You know, you may be working a lot of hours just to make sure you can afford the roof over your head. You may be working so much that you may be trying to figure out how I'm going to do it all. Talk to your spouse. Make sure you make time for each other. If it's 2 minutes at the end of the day, if you're laying down at night and you're both looking at each other, resting your head on the pillow, and you're talking about your day, even if you're trying to whisper while the kids are asleep, taking those moments, those tiny moments are magical. It's amazing how much you can do with a quick 5 seconds. You can look over there at your spouse and just look at them in that way that they know that you love them no matter what. You know, those things matter, because where your heart is, it's going to be revealed by what you treasure. So we want to make sure that we're treasuring our spouse, because they are an amazing gift for us to have. And we want to respect them. We want to help them. And we also want to be there when they need us. Life is not going to be great all the time. But when you have that person in your life who will walk with you, who will take care of you and love you, that's an amazing thing to have. Safeguard your marriage by being the person God has designed you to be, by being loyal, by being kind, by being just awesome to them. You know, you can think about what they may like and do those things. I know for women, we like to have that opportunity to feel loved. And it's the small things that really matter. It's that, oh, he decided to wash the dishes. Or he decided that, you know, he saw me having a hard time, and he knows that if I get this one thing done, I'm going to be okay. And so he takes the kids to the park so I can get just a mini break. Things like that. Think about how you can be a helpmate to your spouse. And I don't want you to just go up and ask all the time. I want you to look at your spouse, watch them, see what it is that smile comes on their face. Something happened, something that you say, oh wow, I didn't know that they really enjoyed that kind of snack, that they really kind of like that. And maybe you surprise them with their little favorite snack, then you realize that, hey, they really appreciated that. They really felt loved by that. Maybe your husband needs some verbal praise, saying, you know what, honey, I don't know how you do it, but you just do your best at your job, and you just love us so much, and I am so thankful for you. You're awesome. I can't even put into words how much I love you. Like, the things that you are doing are things that I wished on my loneliest days I had a husband. And to see you being what God has created you to be, and seeing you doing your best for us, is amazing. Your husband doesn't have to bring home millions of dollars for him to be an awesome provider. He can work hard at a 9-to-5 job and still be able to take care of his family, his home. That's a blessing. It takes a lot for somebody to go to work. Because when you go to work, you're finding all kinds of people. People who are hurting and want to hurt other people. People say ugly things because they're feeling terrible. But when your husband or your wife gets home, give them a hug. Give them the longest, slowest hug and just show them that you are there. Show them that you are committed to being there. And that no matter what, you're going to stand together. Yeah, understand that person is not going to be 1,000% every single thing you wanted in a spouse. That we're all working on being better people, but at the core, all of our core is the same. Commitment, standards, love. We are all in this thing together. And I said on the previous video, if you haven't seen it, go back and play the other 2 videos. Let it bless your spirit. Share that video with somebody who you think needs to hear those words. Sometimes we can send a video to somebody and it just blesses their spirit. And you know, I'm not making videos to be making videos. I feel like if there's nothing to say, don't get up there on video and talk about it. If there's nothing that's touching your heart, nothing that's moving your spirit, I don't want to talk about it. I want to be a resource to you. I want to be a friend. So when you need help, you can play that video back and go, okay, I'm back on track. Yeah, he may be upset right now. Maybe he's had a hard day and somebody didn't do their job and it made his job harder. Let me give him a break. What is it that he needs to regroup from? We all have things and times that we need to step back and think about the situation and then try to handle it versus trying to leap into situations and then we find ourselves caught up in it and we didn't think about what we should have before it was too late. So decide with your spouse what it is. You may need to sit on the couch and breathe before you can talk about a tough day. You may need to talk about it immediately. But whatever you do, communicate with your spouse what you need for those moments. Because you don't want to come to him when he gets off from work and spill all your beans out. Just tell everything that's hurting your heart in that moment. Because maybe he needs a decompression time. Because you don't want him to clock out at work and then clock out as soon as he gets home. We want to make sure we are that safe haven. We don't want to dump stuff on our spouse. You may need to even talk about when do you want to talk about things. Yeah, you may be a morning person, an evening person, a nighttime person. Talk about it with your spouse. You're like, you know what? I just can't handle stuff in the mornings. I can't make decisions that early. I would need to talk about things later on. Or you know what? I'm the type of person, I'm a morning person. I want to talk about these things. I want to talk about these things. And when you figure out you two don't meet up in those areas, find a place of compromise. Where are you going to say, you know what? Let me just calm myself down. I know he can't handle it at this moment. Let me think about it from the other person's perspective. They like to talk about things right away, but I get so wound up from being at work. What can I do to help alleviate that? How can we bridge that gap? So maybe if you are needing to just tell everything all in that moment, write it down. Write it down so you have everything out of your mind and out of your thought process. And so when they come home, when they're ready, they can look at your list and go, oh, wow. What a day you've had. You want to talk about it? But it's not forcing them to talk about it immediately when they get off. It's giving them the opportunity to breathe and relax, and so they can build themselves back up to be your rock and safe place. And so that compromise is not just for you, it's for the other person. So you're both giving, but you're both receiving. Okay? So we don't want to be frustrated with each other. You don't want him to go, oh, I just got off from work and you're saying all this. Oh, what? Oh my gosh, I just need a break. Because you don't want that person to get to that breaking point where they fear coming home because they don't want to deal with it. Or they won't pick up the phone and call you about something because all you're going to do is nag them. No, you don't want to be in that place. You want to be a safe place where they go, let me call him. I just need to hear the voice. I'm going to be okay. But you don't want to be the person who breaks your spouse's spirit. You don't want to be that. And sometimes we get there and not even knowing, not even realizing that we have hurt the person we love the most. You don't want to break their spirit. You don't want to hurt them like that. I say all of these things just to prepare you, just to let you know when that moment comes, when you say I do, when you've thought about it, you've prayed about it, and God has confirmed it. When you have reached that place and you say I do, you get that ring on your finger and you sign that paper and your name has changed. That 20 years from now, you're still saying, I'm glad I said I do. 5 years from now, I'm still saying I do. And if you are knowing what's going to take place when you get in that situation, it makes all the difference. Preparing for marriage, being in marriage, there are lessons you will learn together and grow together as a couple. You'll grow stronger. Marriage can bring you together and make you strong, or it can tear you apart. Let your marriage build you. And if there's something you need to talk to your spouse about, if there's something that they are doing, maybe they're developing some kind of meanness. Maybe they're just, their words are just ugly all of a sudden. The devil has a way of just jumping into people's spirit and getting them to react and act crazy and just not be who they are supposed to be. Take a moment and look back and go, let me talk to him. Let's see what's going on. Honey, I notice you're getting a little more upset than usual. Getting a little more irritated. What's happening? How can I help you? What can we do about that? And if your spouse is getting all stressed out and she's just, you feel like she's just complaining and upset about everything, it's time you find out what the main thing is. Because those small things lead to bigger snowballing issues, and you don't want to get there when the avalanche is falling instead of you getting hit in the face with a little tiny snowball. So face these issues. Start letting your spouse know when you notice change. Because sometimes we go through some stuff and we don't realize that it's taking us with it versus us getting over it. It's dragging us through the mud and we're acting like we've been rolling around and being people that we weren't supposed to be. Being an angry person, being a jealous person, being a vengeance person, being a just horrible person to people. You don't want to have that kind of ugly spirit where people don't want to be around you. Like, oh my gosh, here they come. What is it this time? What did the world do to you today that it hasn't done to everybody else? You don't want to be that person. So, and I told my husband, I was like, let me know, talk to me. If something's changing, let me know, because I don't want to be going down this path and it makes me a worse person or just an ugly person. Yeah, things happen, things don't work out, but let's not let my life make us bitter. Let's take these moments to say, hey, that happened. What can I do differently? And let's move on and grow from this. Okay? And when your spouse is angry and upset, don't tell them, I don't know why you feel like that. You shouldn't feel that way, because you can't control somebody else's feelings. Because guess what? If you felt that, then that's something you felt. If someone said something to hurt you and you felt hurt, then you felt hurt. If somebody said you shouldn't have felt bad about that, you should have. But the fact is, you did feel hurt. You did feel pain. And talk about it. Because you need to know why that person felt hurt and you didn't even realize it. Maybe your tone came off wrong and you didn't even realize that. Instead of having a normal tone, it became negative. It became, just that narcissistic, sarcastic, irritating voice to that person. I tell my husband, what is it like? If something ever that I do or say upsets you or hurts you, call me out on it. Tell me what I've done, okay? Because I don't want you to ever feel like I've done something on purpose to hurt you. Because if I don't know what it is and that made you feel a certain way, then I don't know how to recover from that. I don't know how to fix it. But if I said something or spoken something to you in a way that you didn't like, or maybe my tone changed, or maybe my attitude about it wasn't as, what I thought it was when you felt a different way, talk to me about it. Because I don't want to get to a place and all of it builds up and like you get these comments like, you always do this, you always do that. Those kind of comments are destroying to a marriage, are destroying to a relationship. Because you're saying, and first of all, you're counting what this person is doing. Like, okay, you did this, and then you go, when did I say that? And you go, you said that, da 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 da, and you said it, do 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 do. And you're playing this game where you're accusing your spouse of all of these different things versus telling them in that moment how it made you feel, and so you guys can work on it. I don't want to continue a conversation if I'm acting differently or saying something or my tone or just not being loving to get my message across. Because when I can't be loving to talk to my spouse about something, I need to step back and take a moment. I need to relax and go, let me breathe. I can't handle this conversation right now, but give me a moment. I can't deal with this at this time, but just give me a moment. Because you don't want to say something out of spite. You don't want to say something out of anger. Because those words are hard to try to take back once they've been said. And you don't want to be that person who hurts the other one. You don't want to have to go and fight for their trust when you've lost it by the words that you've spoken to them. So honor that relationship by talking to the other person, not talking at them. Talking at them is not going to be beneficial. You can tell that wall, get up and walk, and that wall will ignore you till the cows come home because it cannot do those things. You don't want to tell somebody something and they just don't get it. And it's not the fact that they don't get it, they don't receive it because they're trying to drown out your noise. What I mean by that is that if you tell somebody something and you're yelling and screaming, they're going to let that stuff go. I don't know what you're talking about because I turned you off the moment you turned on that louder voice. I turned off listening to you when you started to talk to me not in a loving manner. When I turned you off, I cut that communication. I blocked it. And that's an unfortunate place. Because if you can't talk to each other, what has happened when the communication ends? You're letting yourself fall victim until a way of separation. When you don't want to hear what they say, oh, they're just going to say the same old thing. Oh, they're going to say that. Oh, they're going to. You're blocking off that communication. Yeah. It's a different story when you try to say something, you want them to hear you, and they block you off, right? It's like, oh, no, he didn't just not listen to me. I just said this and this and this and this and this. But the bigger question is, why did he turn you off? Why did he stop listening to you when you were talking? As soon as your tone changed, that person decided what you were saying no longer was important to them, that they listen. Because when that tone changed, his ears turned off, his buttons were pressed, and his mind is on high alert to get away from the situation. That can be meaning leaving the room, avoiding you, not talking to you, or just trying to figure out why would you say something like that? Why would you do something like that? Communication is so important. Because if you can talk to that person, you can trust them into listening. Because what they're saying is not there to destroy you, not to tear you apart, but it's to make you better. Yeah, is your breath going to smell like roses when you wake up in the morning? No. Yes, can that person be honest with you and tell you that you may need to go wash your face and brush your teeth before you lay up there and start having a conversation? or that person needs to tell you something that you don't want to hear? Can they have that honesty from you that they will not be looked at as being a horrible person? How dare you? All of that. Versus saying, okay, oh, you're right. I need to go do something about that. Right? Or are you going to go, I can't believe you said something about my brother. Come on. How are you going to handle that? Real life situations. These aren't things that are something that you go, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Yeah, you're going to have times where you need to talk to your spouse about something serious, things that you guys can laugh about, things that you can kid about. But when you're kidding around, you need to make sure that that person understands what you're thinking. Because you think you're kidding and they're thinking you despise them or you hate them, then that goes the wrong way. So communicate with your spouse so they know what you're thinking, that you're on the same page. Marriage is so fun once you realize what the other person needs, what the other person wants, and how to handle them in their best and their least favorite moments. Yeah. And that infamous, most dreaded key, communication. Talk it out. Talk it out. Y'all having a problem about something? Talk it out. You can't agree on it? Talk it out. It's time to break the cycle of divorce because people are not listening to each other. People will pay thousands of dollars for another person to sit in the room and to say what they wanted to say to the other person, when they could have already talked it out. If you need your own therapy couch in your living room, the kids go to bed, here's your part of the couch, here's your part of the couch, your turn. You go first. I went first last time. Tell me something you want me to know, and this is the time to tell me. Versus having another person in the room to say the same thing they said to you, but not having the love that they have for you. Isn't it ironic that somebody who can be in the same room to help somebody mediate a conversation, tell the person something that's the logical advice that makes sense, and the other person tried to say the same thing, and they don't love that person as much as the other person does? When you could have told your wife that you wanted to use that money for something else versus another person saying, you know, you may want to save that money to do something else with because you never know what times are going to be like. But you just paid them $1,000 just so you could hear it coming from somebody else who doesn't love you, who didn't put a ring on your finger and promise to love you and take care of you. I'm saying these things so we can realize how easy it is that we can take talking to each other for granted until you don't hear the person's voice anymore. How you can go from spending hours on a conversation while you're dating to not even want to spend 5 seconds of being in the same room. We don't want to have a marriage breakdown. You have a mental breakdown, your spouse is emotionally and physically drained by just being around you, and then your kids are all affected by this, and your work has been just turned upside down because you can't focus. When you had the chance to just stop, breathe, listen, think, and talk to the other person. Why is it that you would need to yell to get your point across? Why do you think you need to make somebody feel like they're the dust on your shoe to get your point across? It's not about you do this, I'm going to do that. You said that, so I'm going to say this back to you. Marriage is a grown-up relationship where you are understanding that pettiness doesn't cause prosperity. Petty will make you poor. Yeah. Pride will make you poor. Praying will help you to prosper. planning will help you to prosper. We need to understand that marriage is so much greater when you do it the way it's meant to be done. Nothing like coming home to the person that you love and just want to make sure everything is just perfect for and take care of them, and just know that they light up your world the way that you light up theirs. Is your home your happy place? Is your home your safe place? Is home the place you want to get to at the end of the day when you've had a long day, or even if you had a good day, to share the news of all the great things, in a place you run to get rejuvenated because you've had a bad day? The choice is up to you. You can make that house a home, or you can make that home a building with 4 walls. It's up to you. I hope that this has encouraged you. I hope that this has lit a fire in you to be the best spouse that you can be for the other person. And so that he can feel loved, and so that they can reciprocate that same love and have you feel the way you deserve to be. And if you feel like you are better, if you feel like something has changed, I want you to subscribe to my channel, because I want to speak life to you. I want you to feel like, okay, let me just turn on YouTube. Let me just play this message so I can just feel better, so I can just rejuvenate. Yeah, I missed the mark on a few things about being married, but guess what? I'm going to start over. I'm going to start fresh. I want to be like phoning a friend, and it's a pep talk to you. Because it's always good to know that somebody else is feeling the same way you're feeling, isn't it? It's good to know that everybody's marriage isn't perfect, but they've got a plan. They've got ways to stop the devil from attacking their marriage, because he can only present those things. It's us who have that ability to do those actions. Homes are being broken into by the devil because they're opening up the window and letting him in. They're letting him tear up their bounds of their communication, because there's things you don't say out of it to your spouse. There's a way you talk is not ugly to your spouse. If you're letting the devil direct your relationship, he's going to run it into the ground. He doesn't want to see you happy. He does not want you to be in the best relationship of your life. You know, he gets mad because you're happy. Don't let him control your emotions. Don't let him fear having a conversation about your spouse. They're going to think I'm weak if I come to them. No, they're not. Because guess what? They were designed to handle your weakness. It's a funny thing that the thing that you are the strongest in, your spouse won't even come to you when they're weak in that area. It shouldn't be. That's where you strive to be the best you can be, because you know that you can carry them when they are at that place. Let me call my wife. She can, you know what? She'll know how to handle that situation. Let me go in there and talk to her really quick, and I need to see what she says about this, because you are seeking godly counsel. Your spouse wants you to be the best you can be. Do what you have been chosen in this world to do, and be happy, not based on things that happen, but have joy in your heart. So no matter what happens, you are still feeling loved. You are still being encouraged. Have you encouraged your spouse today? If you're watching this video and you are married, watching and listening to me, have you went to the other room and just told your husband, I love you? Have you went to the other room and told her, oh, I smelled dinner and it smells so good? Have you wrapped your arms around her and said, I am so glad I married you. I've just been thinking about all the good things and all the times that you've made me smile on my worst days. I am just grateful that you said I do. And ladies, have you spoken to your husband and told him, I cannot believe we met each other? That my heart longed and missed someone I never even knew their name. But God brought us together. And I'm thankful. You are the one. I am so grateful that I finally found you. You work hard. You love your family. You're good to people. I just need to tell you that. I can't even explain how much I love you. Words can't even put on paper what it even is to explain how much I love you. You know, we want those words. We want to hear when we're doing a great job. So doesn't the other person want to hear that they're doing a great job? Don't they want to hear that you have forsaken all others to be with them? I hope you subscribe to my channel so that you can just be reminded of the goodness. Just be reminded of all the things that you should just build on, that you should just think on. I feel like we're already friends. That you're listening, that you're pouring your heart out as you're watching. That you're reaching out and that you are feeling some emotions, some things, and you're realizing there's some things I need to talk about with my spouse. There's some things I need to, let him know that I love him. I need to let him know all the things he does for us. I want to be able to give you advice, just to talk to you, just to give you some nuggets for life's hard journeys. I am so glad you're here. I'm so glad that you decided to listen and stay till the end. And I'm so glad that you're working on being a better spouse, if you are married, or you're being an amazing person waiting on who God has called you for. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.